All right, so I'm gonna mix a couple of things here together so you understand it. And this is from the movie Contact with Jodie Foster. It came out years ago, where these wheels spun around and she was in the middle and there was a ball and they dropped it and she wound up in some other fucking place, another dimension for, whatever. Well, the way this thing works, to the best that I can imagine, is because when these wheels spin, they all spin, they create what's called a 0-point gravity. Okay, so right in the center here, right in that center, okay, there would be no external force. It would be like you were in a vacuum, kind of. And basically, it would be creating a black hole. Okay, because it's a gyroscopic effect. This wheel would spin this way, this wheel would spin that way, this one would spin towards us, and this one would spin away from us. And so once they get going fast enough, you actually start opening the fabric of reality. Okay? If we look at this, here's the colors, very interesting. Jonathan King, Everyone's Gone to the Moon, right? Summer's coming, that's interesting enough because we're talking about this place heating up or whatever. And we see these lines, like this is a thought pattern. And then here's the result of it. And we see these triangles. Okay, it's an album cover. But it isn't just an album cover, because if we go back to the movie Contact, which they only show this bit for a split second. Okay? For a split second they show this when she's in the ball and she looks up and she sees this thing, this whatever this machine thing is that is creating all of this stuff. Not the ball she's in, the thing outside of it from another dimension. And if we see here very closely, I'll outline it. Watch here. Actually, let me go back a little bit. We do this. It comes through here to there, and then it comes up here, and then it comes down here to here, and then up through there. So you can assume at some point it's gonna come to a point there and a point down there. So we have the same triangle, the same black triangle, because if we just took it out, these would eventually run into each other out here. So she only looks up for a second and sees this thing, and you can see the wires connecting this thing and how far it goes, just like this. Okay, and then you got the guy's face here. Now, if we go into the Bible, and people have always equated this with a UFO, and it's not a UFO. It's whatever this thing is. Okay? The verse I remember as a kid, when Ezekiel saw this thing, he says, and when the wheels went, it went not. It means when those wheels were spinning, the thing didn't move. It just stayed there, but the wheels were spinning. Here's a picture. Ezekiel, right here. Ezekiel sees God's glory. Interesting colors, purple and yellow. And what do we have? This thing right here. Which is real similar to this thing over here. So why don't we just move this over here? Because the two of them are identical. Okay? So we have the same color pattern, and we got the same machine. Now, if you go and read in the book of Ezekiel, that's why I told you guys you should read the Bible, because the keys are in there, the understanding. These are just a couple of verses. It was the sound of the wings of the living creatures brushing against each other. Well, I pretty much think those are bearings. And the sound of the wheels beside them, a loud rumbling sound. So as these things spun, they made humongous noise. It's a fucking huge, like a CERN type of a thing. It says their entire bodies included their backs, their hands, and their wings were completely full of eyes, as were the four wheels. So you have four wheels over here. Over here, I'm assuming they tried to draw 4, but you can't see it. Okay? The eyes would be holes that are in the wheels themselves. Now, this is an interesting thing here that's in Ezekiel. I think this is 10:13 or whatever. To the wheels, it was shouted. This guy's supposedly saying this because God allowed him to see it. To the wheels, it was shouted, unto them, roll. Doesn't that have a very familiar sound to something that happened not so long ago in 2001 when that stupid-ass story about them stopping the hijackers, and he said, let's roll, as they tried to storm the cockpit. Remember that stupid-ass story? Let's roll. And interestingly enough, in this movie, the ones that destroyed this machine were hijackers. They destroyed the first one. Were hijackers. And guess what they were in the movie? They were Middle Eastern people. Okay, so this is out of the Bible. So they're saying, he heard him say, roll. And then Bush says, oh, they said, let's roll. And they stormed the cockpit. Okay? I heard someone referring to the wheels as the whirling wheels. This is another verse. You can go read the book of Ezekiel. It's all in there. The whirling wheels. George Bush, in his 1981 State of the Union address, said, does the angel in the whirlwind still direct this storm? Whatever's going on here, the colors don't lie. You can read into the fucking the lettering any way you want to. The colors don't lie. In this movie, when she went into this other dimension or whatever, the people that were running this machine and beings didn't create it. They didn't even know who created it, but they were using it to filter down into this reality. In that movie, I'm just saying there's more connections here than science fiction. Most people have never read the Bible, so they wouldn't even know that this stupid thing is in the Bible. That's where do they think they got the idea? But we can clearly see that here's the triangle here, and they only show this thing for a split second. And so there's a bunch of these triangles, and yet we have the same configuration, and this guy, everyone's gone to the moon, and he comes here. And then we have this contact, and then supposedly this is supposed to be Ezekiel sees the glory of God, but it's the glory. It's not God himself. So before everybody goes, oh, that's God. That's not God. That's energy. I'm telling you, I'm right about this stuff, and I know that I'm right. And it's not an ego thing. I can see it. And I don't mean I see it with my eyes. I can see it in the way things are written and the color codes and the way stuff is put together. It's got nothing to do with ego, because I'm the dumbest fuck on this planet, trust me. But I'm right about this stuff. There's a God, and there's going to be a judgment, and there's going to be all kinds of fucking problems, because somebody's been fucking around with this type of stuff and fucking everything up really bad. You know, the law is not just what you see that a policeman enforcing. There's laws of nature that are being fucked with here, and they're really, really, really fucking things up in a very, very bad way, trying to play the glory of God.